Section 25 of Poems of American History, the Colonial Era. This is the LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Poems of American History, the Colonial Era. Chapter 6. Religious Persecutions in New England, Part 4. The law was soon to be enforced, and among the earliest to endure its penalties were Christopher Holden and John Copeland, who were whipped and imprisoned, while Lawrence and Cassandra Southwick of Salem were also imprisoned for having harbored them. The Southwicks were in advanced years and had 3 grown children, Provided, Josiah, and Daniel. The whole family had united with the Society of Friends, and the parents were banished from the colony upon pain of death. While they and one son, Josiah, were in prison, Provided and Daniel were fined £10 for not attending public worship at Salem. They refused to pay, and were ordered to be sold into slavery in Virginia or Barbados, but no master of a vessel could be found to carry out the sentence. Cassandra Southwick, 1658. To the God of all sure mercies let my blessing rise today. From the scoffer and the cruel he hath plucked the spoil away. Yea, he who cooled the furnace around the faithful 3, and tamed the Chaldean lions, hath set his handmaid free. Last night I saw the sunset melt through my prison bars. Last night across my damp earth floor fell the pale gleam of stars. In the coldness and the darkness, all through the long night time, my grated casement whitened with autumn's early rime. Alone in that dark sorrow, hour after hour crept by. Star after star looked palely in, and sank adown the sky. No sound amid night's stillness, save that which seemed to be the dull and heavy beating of the pulses of the sea. All night I sat unsleeping, for I knew that on the morrow the ruler and the cruel priest would mock me in my sorrow, dragged to their place of market, and bargained for and sold, like a lamb before the shambles, like a heifer from the fold. Oh, the weakness of the flesh was there, the shrinking and the shame, and the low voice of the tempter like whispers to me came. Why sit'st thou thus forlornly? The wicked murmur said. Damp walls thy bower of beauty, cold earth thy maiden bed? Where be the smiling faces, and voices soft and sweet, seen in thy father's dwelling, heard in the pleasant street? Where be the youths whose glances, the summer's Sabbath through, turn tenderly and timidly unto thy father's pew? Why sit'st thou here, Cassandra? Bethink thee with what mirth thy happy schoolmates gather around the warm, bright hearth. How the crimson shadows tremble on foreheads white and fair, on eyes of merry girlhood half hid in golden hair. Not for thee the hearth fire brightens, not for thee kind words are spoken, not for thee the nuts of Wenham woods by laughing boys are broken. No first fruits of the orchard within thy lap are laid. For thee no flowers of autumn, the youthful hunters braid. O weak deluded maiden, by crazy fancies led, with wild and raving railers an evil path to tread, to leave a wholesome worship and teaching pure and sound, and mate with maniac women, loose-haired and sackcloth bound. Mad scoffers of the priesthood, who mock at things divine, who rail against the pulpit and holy bread and wine, sore from their cart-tail scourgings and from the pillory lame, rejoicing in their wretchedness and glorying in their shame. And what a fate awaits thee, a sadly toiling slave, dragging the slowly lengthening chain of bondage to the grave. Think of thy woman's nature, subdued in hopeless thrall, the easy prey of any, the scoff and scorn of all. O, ever as the tempter spoke, and feeble nature's fears wrung drop by drop the scalding flow of unavailing tears, I wrestled down the evil thoughts, and strove in silent prayer to feel, O helper of the weak, that thou indeed wert there. I thought of Paul and Silas within Philippi's cell, and how from Peter's sleeping limbs the prison shackles fell, till I seemed to hear the trailing of an angel's robe of white, and to feel a blessed presence invisible to sight. Bless the Lord for all his mercies, for the peace and love I felt, like dew of Hermon's holy hill, upon my spirit melt. When, "Get behind me, Satan," was the language of my heart, and I felt the evil tempter with all his doubts depart. Slow broke the gray cold morning, again the sunshine fell, flecked with the shade of bar and grate within my lonely cell. The hoar-frost melted on the wall, and upward from the street came careless laugh and idle word, and tread of passing feet. At length the heavy bolts fell back, my door was open cast, and slowly at the sheriff's side up the long street I passed. I heard the murmur round me, and felt, but dared not see, how from every door and window the people gazed on me. And doubt and fear fell on me, shame burned upon my cheek, swam earth and sky around me, my trembling limbs grew weak. O Lord, support thy handmaid, and from her soul cast out the fear of man, which brings a snare, the weakness and the doubt. Then the dreary shadows scattered, like a cloud in morning's breeze, and a low, deep voice within me seemed whispering words like these: Though thy earth be as the iron, and thy heaven a brazen wall, trust still his loving kindness, whose power is over all. We paused at length, where at my feet the sunlit waters broke on glaring reach of shining beach and shingly wall of rock. The merchant ships lay idly there in hard clear lines on high, tracing with rope and slender spar their network on the sky. And there were ancient citizens, cloak-wrapped and grave and cold, and grim and stout sea captains with faces bronzed and old. And on his horse with Rawson, his cruel clerk, at hand, sat dark and haughty Endicott, the ruler of the land. and poisoning with his evil words the ruler's ready ear, the priest leaned o'er his saddle with laugh and scoff and jeer. It stirred my soul, and from my lips the seal of silence broke, as if through woman's weakness a warning spirit spoke. I cried, "The Lord rebuke thee, thou smiter of the meek, thou robber of the righteous, thou trampler of the weak. Go light the dark cold hearthstones, go turn the prison lock of the poor hearts thou hast hunted, thou wolf amid the flock." Dark lowered the brows of Endicott, and with a deeper red o'er Rawson's wine empurpled cheek the flush of anger spread. "Good people," quoth the white-lipped priest, "heed not her words so wild. Her master speaks within her, the devil owns his child." But gray heads shook, and young brows knit, the while the sheriff read that law the wicked rulers against the poor have made, who to their house of Rimmon and idle priesthood bring no bended knee of worship, nor gainful offering. Then to the stout sea captains the sheriff, turning, said, "Which of ye, worthy seamen, will take this Quaker maid? In the isle of fair Barbados, or on Virginia's shore, you may hold her at a higher price than Indian girl or Moor." Grim and silent stood the captains, and when again he cried, "Speak out, my worthy seamen," no voice, no sign replied. But I felt a hard hand press my own, and kind words met my ear. "God bless thee and preserve thee, my gentle girl and dear." A weight seemed lifted from my heart, a pitying friend was nigh. I felt it in his hard, rough hand, and saw it in his eye. And when again the sheriff spoke, that voice so kind to me growled back its stormy answer like the roaring of the sea. "Pile my ship with bars of silver, pack with coins of Spanish gold, from keel piece up to deck plank the roomage of her hold. By the living God who made me, I would sooner in your bay sink ship and crew and cargo than bear this child away." "Well answered, worthy captain, shame on their cruel laws," ran through the crowd in murmurs loud, the people's just applause. Like the herdsmen of Tekoa in Israel of old, shall we see the poor and righteous again for silver sold? I looked on haughty Endicott, with weapon halfway drawn, swept round the throng his lion glare of bitter hate and scorn. Fiercely he drew his bridle rein, and turned in silence back, and sneering priest and baffled clerk rode murmuring in his track. Hard after them the sheriff looked in bitterness of soul, thrice smote his staff upon the ground, and crushed his parchment roll. "Good friends," he said, "since both have fled, the ruler and the priest, judge ye if from their further work I be not well released." Loud was the cheer which, full and clear, swept round the silent bay, as, with kind words and kinder looks, he bade me go my way. For he who turns the courses of the streamlet of the glen, and the river of great waters, had turned the hearts of men. Oh, at that hour the very earth seemed changed beneath my eye. A holier wonder round me rose the blue walls of the sky. A lovelier light on rock and hill and stream and woodland lay, and softer lapsed on sunnier sands the waters of the bay. Thanksgiving to the Lord of life, to Him all praises be, who from the hands of evil men hath set His handmaid free. All praise to Him before whose power the mighty are afraid, who takes the crafty in the snare which for the poor is laid. Sing, O my soul, rejoicingly, on evening's twilight calm, uplift the loud thanksgiving, pour forth the grateful psalm. Let all dear hearts with me rejoice, as did the saints of old, when of the Lord's good angel the rescued Peter told. And weep and howl, ye evil priests, and mighty men of wrong, the Lord shall smite the proud, and lay His hand upon the strong. Woe to the wicked rulers in His avenging hour! Woe to the wolves who seek the flocks to raven and devour! But let the humble ones arise, the poor in heart be glad, and let the mourning ones again with robes of praise be clad. For He who cooled the furnace, and smoothed the stormy wave, and tamed the Chaldean lions, is mighty still to save. John Greenleaf Whittier. In September 1661, Edward Burrough, a prominent Quaker of England, obtained an audience of King Charles II and laid the grievances of the New England Quakers before him. That careless king, who always found it more easy to grant a request than to refuse it, so long as it cost him nothing, directed that a letter be written to Endicott and the governors of the other New England colonies, commanding that, quote, if there were any of those people called Quakers amongst them, now already condemned to suffer death or other corporal punishment, or that were imprisoned and obnoxious to the like condemnation, they were to forbear to proceed any further therein, end quote, and to send such persons to England for trial. This letter was given in charge to Samuel Shattuck, a Quaker of Salem, then in England under sentence of banishment, with the usual condition of being hanged should he return. He reached Boston in November 1661, and presented himself with all haste at the governor's door. The ballad very accurately describes the interview which followed. The King's Missive, November 1661. Under the great hill sloping bare to cove and meadow and common lot, in his council chamber and oaken chair, sat the worshipful Governor Endicott, a grave strong man who knew no peer in the pilgrim land, where he ruled in fear of God, not man, and for good or ill held his trust with an iron will. He had shorn with his sword the cross from out the flag, and cloven the Maypole down, harried the heathen round about, and whipped the Quakers from town to town. Earnest and honest, a man at need to burn like a torch for his own harsh creed, he kept with the flaming brand of his zeal the gate of the holy commonweal. His brow was clouded, his eye was stern, with a look of mingled sorrow and wrath. Woe's me, he murmured, at every turn the pestilent Quakers are in my path. Some we have scourged and banished some hanged, more doomed, and still they come. fast as the tide of yon bay sets in, sowing their heresies, seed of sin. Did we count on this? Did we leave behind the graves of our kin, the comfort and ease of our English hearths and homes, to find troublers of Israel such as these? Shall I spare? Shall I pity them? God forbid. I will do as the prophet to Agag did. They come to poison the wells of the word. I will hew them in pieces before the Lord. The door swung open, and Rawson the clerk entered and whispered under breath, "There waits below for the hangman's work a fellow banished on pain of death. Shattuck of Salem, unhealed of the whip, brought over in Master Goldsmith's ship, at anchor here in a Christian port, with freight of the devil and all his sort. Twice and thrice on the chamber floor, striding fiercely from wall to wall. The Lord do so to me and more," the governor cried, "if I hang not all. Bring hither the Quaker." Calm, sedate, with the look of a man at ease with fate, into that presence grim and dread came Samuel Shattuck, with hat on head. "Off with the knave's hat!" An angry hand smote down the offence, but the wearer said, with a quiet smile, "By the king's command I bear his message, and stand in his stead." In the governor's hand a missive he laid, with the royal arms on its seal displayed. And the proud man spake as he gazed thereat, uncovering, "Give Mr. Shattuck his hat." He turned to the Quaker, bowing low, "The king commandeth your friend's release. Doubt not he shall be obeyed, although to his subjects' sorrow and sin's increase. What he here enjoineth, John Endicott, his loyal servant, questioneth not. You are free. God grant the spirit you own may take you from us to parts unknown." So the door of the jail was open cast, and, like Daniel, out of the lion's den, tender youth and girlhood passed, with age-bowed women and gray-locked men. And the voice of one appointed to die was lifted in praise and thanks on high, and the little maid from New Netherlands kissed in her joy the doomed man's hands. And one whose call was to minister to the souls in prison beside him went, an ancient woman bearing with her the linen shroud for his burial meant. For she, not counting her own life dear, in the strength of a love that cast out fear, had watched and served where her brethren died, like those who waited the cross beside. One moment they paused on their way to look on the martyr graves by the common side, and much-scourged Wharton of Salem took his burden of prophecy up, and cried, "Rest, souls of the valiant! Not in vain have ye borne the Master's cross of pain. Ye have fought the fight, ye are victors crowned, with a fourfold chain ye have Satan bound." The autumn haze lay soft and still on wood and meadow and upland farms. On the brow of Snow Hill the great windmill slowly and lazily swung its arms. Broad in the sunshine stretched away, with its capes and islands, the turquoise bay. And over water and dusk of pines, blue hills lifted their faint outlines. The topaz leaves of the walnut glowed, The sumac added its crimson fleck, and double in air and water showed the tinted maples along the neck. Through frost flower clusters of pale star mist, and gentian fringes of amethyst, and royal plumes of goldenrod, the grazing cattle on sentry trod. But as they who see not, the Quakers saw the world about them, they only thought with deep thanksgiving and pious awe on the great deliverance God had wrought. Through lane and alley the gazing town noisily followed them up and down, some with scoffing and brutal jeer, some with pity and words of cheer. One brave voice rose above the din. Upsall, gray with his length of days, cried from the door of his Red Lion Inn, "Men of Boston, give God the praise. No more shall innocent blood call down the bolts of wrath on your guilty town. The freedom of worship, dear to you, is dear to all, and to all is due. I see the vision of days to come, when your beautiful city of the Bay shall be Christian liberty's chosen home, and none shall his neighbor's rights gainsay. The varying notes of worship shall blend, and as one great prayer to God ascend, and hands of mutual charity raise walls of salvation and gates of praise." So passed the Quakers through Boston town, whose painful ministers sighed to see the walls of their sheepfold falling down, and wolves of heresy prowling free. But the years went on and brought no wrong. With milder counsels the state grew strong, as outward letter and inward light kept the balance of truth aright. The Puritan spirit, perishing not, to conquered yeomen the signal sent, and spake in the voice of the cannon shot that severed the chains of a continent. With its gentler mission of peace and good will, the thought of the Quaker is living still, and the freedom of soul he prophesied is gospel and law where the martyrs died. John Greenleaf Whittier. End of section 25.